Welcome to the MVP Show. In this podcast, I'm having a chat with the world-famous Steve Mordue, someone that's become a quick friend and collaborator. The format for the show is that of a fireside chat. For full show notes, please visit nz365guy.com/36. Now let's get on with the show.
There's a knife in my heart and a storm in my hand.
Okay, everybody, I'm here with Steve Mordue. Steve, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Steve Mordue. I'm CEO of ForceWorks, which is a SI turned ISV in the US. We also have an ISV solution called Rapid Start CRM that we're spending a lot of energy on. And I've been an MVP since 2017.
Okay. So an MVP since 2017. Tell us, what part of the US do you live in, and what's so special about where you come from?
I actually live in Tampa, Florida, which is on the west coast of Florida, which is completely different from the east coast. If anybody's ever visited Miami or Fort Lauderdale, that's not the Florida I live in. We live in the much quieter, more laid-back, relaxed side of the state. It gets warm here, but in a previous career, I was involved in, oddly enough, building shopping malls, and built shopping malls all over the country. So I had my chance to travel to lots of different parts of the country and different climates, and always look forward to coming back here to Tampa. And I was born here in Tampa.
Nice. So what about family? Do you have family with you?
I do. As a matter of fact, my wife is a business partner. She's actually the owner of Rapid Start, which is its own entity for that ISV solution.
Right. Oh, very good. And any kids?
I have 4 from a previous marriage, and she has 2, but we only have one left in the house, who just turned 16, got her driver's license, and we have hardly seen her since.
Wow. So you'll be totally free soon.
I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Hey, I've never been to Tampa. If I was coming, what type of food should I be eating there, and what should I be seeing and doing?
Well, there's some Cuban influence here from back in the day. So obviously there's some areas in town that have got some pretty incredible Cuban food. A legitimate Cuban sandwich.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's a nuclear Cuban sandwich? I've never heard of one.
So a Cuban sandwich would be made with it's kind of a flattish bread, and it's got ham, roast pork, Swiss cheese, pickles, mustard, mayonnaise, and then they press the sandwich. So they'll put butter on the outside of the bread and put it in this press and press it into flat. Kind of, I think before the paninis with the pressing of all the ridges, these are all flat,
right?
But no ridges, just pressed flat.
Okay. Oh, interesting. So you've been an MVP for a while. Kind of tell me, has it affected your career anyway?
I would say it has, and I wouldn't say it's been a while compared to guys like you and some of the others. I'm still fairly freshly minted. I only just got through my first renewal cycle here, so I haven't been one that long.
Okay.
But it's definitely has been interesting. I made it a point when I very first. I'll give you a little bit of background.
Okay.
We were Salesforce partners for about 10 years, and I had a partner in that business. And Microsoft launched Dynamics CRM Online with 2011, and that was really their first push into the cloud with that CRM product. And we'd been cloud for years. So we decided we'll go take a peek at this, kind of look over the fence and see what Microsoft was doing. And really at that time it was pretty clunky. So we chuckled a little bit at their feeble effort over there, but I kept looking at it and thinking, there may be an opportunity here. And the opportunity I saw at the time wasn't, with this great platform, because it wasn't at that time. The opportunity I saw was that nobody else was looking at it either. The existing Dynamics partners were still focused on on-premise, and here's this new fledgling cloud offering that really nobody was interested in. And so I decided to pursue that path and get involved with that product. And we were one of the leading sellers of that product in the first year with, frankly, not very many licenses because we just got in so early. But because we got in early, we started making some good connections with Microsoft. Funny story. I had a guy from Microsoft kept calling me, and we had formerly been Salesforce partners. And if a Salesforce guy calls you, you don't answer that phone because he just wants to find out who you're talking to and go try, he'll go straight to that customer. And the next thing you know, you're in the back seat of that deal. So we'd kind of gotten in the mode of, you don't ever, talk to anybody from the platform that you're representing. But this guy kept insisting. And he finally told me, I left a message one time, said, look, I'm going to be in Tampa and I've got 2 hours in the middle of the day. And I want you to meet me, you and your partner, to meet me for lunch. And if you don't, I'm just going to sit in my car somewhere in a parking lot. So he kind of guilted me into it. So I said, all right, fine. So I picked the most expensive restaurant in town, and we went and met this guy. And this was when I had a business partner still, and we both sat there, with our arms crossed, just waiting for this Microsoft dude to, ask us who we're working with, what customers we're trying to get, all the same stuff, and it just went a completely different direction. He was like, "What can I do to help you? Can I make some connections at Microsoft? Can I get you some leads? Can I get you some customers?" And it was very strange for us. But one of the things he told me in that first meeting that really stuck with me was that spend as much time marketing yourself internal to Microsoft as you do external to customers.
Wow. That's great advice.
We had never done that with Salesforce. I mean, we just avoided them like the plague. And I thought about that after the meeting. And I thought, he seemed like a straight shooter, and he made a few introductions. And so I went deep down that path. And at that point really was when my partner realized that I wasn't backing off this Dynamics thing. And he was kind of Salesforce to the core. So I bought him out, and he actually went to work for one of our big Salesforce customers. And I took over the business at that point as a pure Microsoft Dynamics shop. And really, between focusing on getting to know people inside of Microsoft, I ended up really turning 100% of my marketing efforts internal to Microsoft. And we've gotten probably 99% of our business has come from Microsoft, sending us business, putting us in front of customers ever since. Smartest move I ever made.
Wow. That's your story is really, quite a unique story, as in most partners are always bemoaning their relationships with Microsoft, or, lack of visibility within them. But obviously you went out of your way and actually engaged hardcore based on that advice.
We didn't have the history with Microsoft. We came in when they launched CRM Online. Ballmer was still there, but it was kind of the last couple of years of Ballmer. And I definitely got the sense, talking to lots of partners that have been in the channel a long time, that there was, pent up, they're disgruntled over things that had happened way before I got here. But I just had an open mind, and I didn't see any of that. I mean, everything I saw was supportive and rah-rah. And to be fair, we're coming in as a former competing cloud partner who was already, well-versed in cloud CRM into a direction definitely Microsoft wanted to move into that cloud direction. And all of the partners that they already had were really dragging their feet. So we just, it was a perfect timing for us. We stepped onto the front of the train when nobody else was even willing to get on it, and just got that ride. And that's been my goal ever since, is to try and stay in the front car of the train wherever Microsoft goes,
Yeah. Makes sense. So, a lot of people, are particularly MVPs, have come into the program and they had a very strong Dynamics 365 background. And of course, the Power Platform is now in market, and there's a lot being done from Microsoft's from an investment point of view, and with introduction of things like Power Apps, Flow. I say introduction; they've been around over a year, but of these technologies, are you seeing that, what's your focus? Are you more a Power Apps guy, or you're more a Dynamics 365 and, the first party apps guy?
We're kind of making that transition now. When you look at a company the size of Microsoft as like a battleship, right? And their pivot to the cloud a few years ago for a battleship was amazing. I mean, they turned that battleship on a dime, and most of the channel kept going the way they were going. They didn't follow the battleship. They circled around, did big loops, and came back to it. But I've tried to stay in lockstep with wherever Microsoft is going. Even if I don't agree with it, I'm not going to stand back and cross my arms and complain, because that battleship's going to go. And we're rowing a boat right behind them, directly in their wake. And every time that battleship twitches, we're twitching with them. And there's some big twitching going on right now, bigger than I think. One of my fears about the channel in general, which I've voiced on some other opportunities, is that they're just plain not aware of the transition that's happening in the business application space. They're head down. They're doing things they've always done the way they've always done them, and up until now they've been able to do that. But the opportunity to continue doing what you've always done the way you've always done it is evaporating, and they're going to look up one day and have nothing to do if they haven't really paid attention. And I don't think enough of them are paying attention. And you hear that about, and even when you look at Dynamics, it moved to the cloud, but okay, so now it's cloud, still similar skill set. As we've gone through these different iterations of the product moving forward, they've been iterations, some bigger than others, but still it's been iterative. Now this move to Power Apps and the direction they're taking now, I feel is completely disruptive. It's no longer just an iteration of what we've had. And to come back to your question, I'm looking at the Dynamics 365 as really being here very soon, I think, the brand name for their first party applications.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's no longer the platform. That's been abstracted out from underneath. It's really, when people think Dynamics 365 today, frankly, a lot of customers don't know what to think. They've all got the wrong ideas anyway. But even internally, we've all thought of that as the platform and the apps. And I think in the future, that's really just going to be the apps. Dynamics 365 is a sales app, it's a service app, it's a field service app, et cetera, talent, F&O. But by abstracting out that platform, that really is the big game changer that I think people haven't recognized the opportunity around. And so we've gone deep on that. What was it, a year ago? I think it was who was it that was telling us? Param was telling me they'll never release a platform only license. No way they're going to allow ISVs to go compete, with their first party offerings. So they'll never do that. You'd always have to at least buy one of the first party apps in order to get access to the platform. When by platform, we're referring to CDS. And somebody changed their mind. And I think it was, not just for my own, personal benefit that I wanted to be able to build on a raw platform, but I think it's a brilliant move for Microsoft. And I think we're really at the beginning of that ride.
Yeah, totally agree with you. So tell me, what's the biggest value of being an MVP? What have you seen the changes for you and the value that you've received in becoming one in the last couple of years?
I think it's for me. I was involved in the Dynamics pack for several years before I became an MVP, so I was already had a lot of access to similar NDA level content that we now have access to as MVPs. So I had some of that access. The biggest thing for me really has been the other MVPs. I mean, this is like a big club, but everybody that's in it, is similar to you, and they're all very sharing. I mean, to be able to reach out and tap, any of the MVPs as another MVP and say, hey, I got this issue, or do you know this guy, or you got a suggestion for this, and get that kind of answer, I think has been really the biggest value for me.
It is amazing. Though you describe it like a club, I don't see it as kind of like a social circle just to catch up with mates, or an environment where you go and relax as such, or party, all kind of definitions of club. But it's really like this tight knit community that are there to help you, and being an MVP obviously opens the door to those other MVPs being a lot more receptive, even though as a rule most MVPs are very outward, contributing.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some club aspect there too. We do our share of partying and hanging out and catching up. Every time we see each other, we'll go out to some event that's not MVP specific, and suddenly you'll find a bunch of us have congregated into a bar down the street. We're catching up. So there definitely is a social aspect to it. It's
It
interesting
sounds
the
like
cross
you're
section.
giving. It sounds like you're giving away some NDA secrets there.
Oh, that might be, yes. Sorry about that.
Carry
It's
on,
it's an
carry on.
interesting cross section. I'm as you are, a business applications MVP. So we're like a tribe of our own within the whole MVP community, made up of many tribes of different kinds of MVPs. So we don't necessarily reach outside that much, but even within the group, there's a lot of variance of different kinds of people. You and I are independent business owners. A lot of them are, senior technical people at, very large firms. There's just a lot of different kinds of people. So it's interesting to kind of see how people view issues and challenges and things that maybe we do get exposed to from an NDA standpoint, and how different people react to those things differently, depending on where they're sitting at. I'm a business owner. So, I mean, I look at everything that comes out as to how it's going to affect the potential for my business. But if I was not a business owner, I'd be looking more about, how's that going to affect my ability to do my job. So interesting, the different views that people will have on a particular hot topic.
Yeah, so true, so true. Listen, one of the things that we're to maintain our MVP kind of status after becoming an MVP, and of course becoming an MVP is about contribution. But what do you what's your operating model of giving back to the community and creating value for others, which really is ultimately how you end up becoming an MVP. What type of things do you actually do yourself? Not kind of what you've heard other people do, but what do you do as your area of contribution?
It's interesting. I'm not exactly sure how I became an MVP, because I didn't necessarily meet all the criteria that you would look at that's out there to become one. So when I thought about, what do I need to do to keep it, I really didn't know what to do. So I didn't do anything different. I just was doing the same thing I was doing before. So probably my biggest outreach effort is really around the blog. I do, quite a bit of blogging, and have a pretty good following on the blog for the writing, and from a blogging standpoint, it's frustrating still that the most read post that I ever wrote still gets a ridiculous number of hits. And I wrote it about 5 years ago, and it was about understanding Office 365 mailboxes. Way out of date. I mean, it's not even relevant anymore. It still gets more. But one of the things I noticed, as a business owner, that was great. But the technical post for me didn't seem like it had a lot of upside. I'm not deeply technical enough to get deep enough into it. And the kind of people that were looking at technical posts probably already had the product. So just the businessman in me said, well, why am I talking to people that already bought the product? I should be talking to people that haven't yet. And that's really when I kind of made a pivot over to just more, in case you're not aware, I'm a little opinionated. So I just kind of made a pivot over to, I'm just going to talk about what I think as a partner, and, not have every post be, have some ulterior motive, but just write about what I think, where I see things going, and that seems to hit a nerve with some part of the population out there that is interested in that that angle.
No, that's great, and I think that's one of the thing about MVPs, right? Everyone comes from a unique background. Some are very deep and technical, and so it's logical for them to write and communicate on that. But I've been having this gnawing feeling for a while, and I've been involved and led, a range of blogs for the various organizations I've worked with in the past, and we created a lot of great content for other technical dynamics folks, which didn't add a dime to our business, and it's definitely made me kind of think a lot more, who is your audience, that you're communicating with.
I'm still trying to figure out who the audience is. I'm just talking, and whoever's reading and listening is reading and listening. I tell you, blogging's hard. Certainly there are technical bloggers out there that are able to make the technical topic interesting, and you get the sense from reading that they really do know what they're talking about. And then there's other technical bloggers that even I know they don't know what they're talking about. And then there's bloggers that are trying to take an approach maybe more similar to mine that that are better or worse. So it definitely is. I think for blogging to be successful, it's less about doing it, although you have to obviously do it to be successful, but you have to do it well. At whichever path you pick, you have to do it well. If it's a technical path, if it's more of an opinion path, whatever it is, you really have to do it well.
Yeah, so true, so true. So, what do people never ask you that you wish they did?
I don't know. That's a good question. I've listened to your podcast many times, so I should have been prepared for your out in left field questions, but I'm not. I don't know. I think a lot of people seem to think that I'm younger than I am, but I don't necessarily want them asking that.
No, it's your great haircut, right?
Yeah, exactly. The haircut hides all. Yeah, I'll be turning 60 this year, which for a Microsoft partner or blogger or something like that is like ancient. So there, I've let out a secret I probably should have kept.
Hey, I'm a big believer in age is really the age of your spirit, and I find that works for me. As in, everyone takes me as a lot younger than what I am, and I'd say that they do the same with you.
It's the bald, yeah.
So, one bit of advice that you would give to somebody considering becoming an MVP and kind of trying to sort out, what should they do? What should they focus on? What even, I think you've made it pretty clear around Microsoft's pivoted to this platform story. But what if someone came up to you and said, listen, what do you recommend I do? What would you tell them?
It's interesting because I have people come up and ask that. And since I'm not exactly sure how I became one, I can't exactly give them a thorough prescription, but I could certainly say a couple things. One is that it's interesting, and I don't know if you find this to be true, but what it takes to become an MVP is a little different than what's ultimately expected of you once you become one. I think some of the common paths that you see for becoming an MVP, a lot of people became one that way, is by getting out on all the different support forums and answering as many questions and being as open and helping end customers and other partners. That's obviously valuable to Microsoft, valuable to the community. But once you get inside as an MVP, it seems like what's expected of you is a little different than what it took to get in here. So they should be prepared for that. I don't do any question answering on the forums. There's a lot smarter people than me out there to answer those questions. So I've focused on really just trying to create a voice around the product, which isn't always positive. But I'm also not a basher. I'm not getting out there writing every month about how horrible everything is in the world with Microsoft. But I'll point out when they've stepped in a pile of poo. So that's worked for me to become an MVP. But what works for me and what works for you isn't necessarily what would work for someone else. They got to kind of find a path. I think that that one way you will not become an MVP is by doing nothing and just having your head down and working with your customers and running your business or doing your job every day. Nobody's going to recognize that. So you have to somehow or another get your face out there. I mean, if somebody does a Bing or a Google search for you and they can't even find you, then it's going to be very difficult to justify to Microsoft that you're one of their most valuable professionals when nobody's ever heard of you. So that's step one, is you got to get yourself out there. And I think it almost seems like if your goal is to try and become an MVP, then you probably had the wrong goal, and you probably won't get it that way, because we've all seen many folks out there that are pinging us, hey, I've been trying to become an MVP for 5 years now, doing this, that, and the other. And I tell them, I said, well, stop trying to become an MVP. Just keep doing what you're doing, and add value and make yourself, become a voice, become an influencer, become somebody that's noticed, and that's good whether you become an MVP or not. But if your sole focus is trying to figure out how to game the system or something to get in there and check those boxes, it doesn't seem like that gets people there.
Yeah, so good. Hey, Steve, thanks for coming on the show. It's been great talking to you. If people want to find you on the World Wide Web, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, my blog is at stevemordue.com, and they can follow me on Twitter at @SteveMordue.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave feedback on your favorite podcast app. Full show notes can be found at nz365guy.com/36. And just note, this is not the last time you've heard from Steve Mordue on the Business Applications podcast. There will be future episodes coming up where we will drill into things like ISV and taking products to market through the ISV channel. Until next time, hey, have a great week.